There's nothing inside space-time that you can measure precisely. If you're dawdling around with anything but the payoffs, you lose. Consciousness is not amorphous, it's structured. It has precise mathematical structure.
Need motivation?
Watch Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like na 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 na. For my top 10, top 10, na 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 na. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because chances are you are the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, David Hoffman, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Focus on the game.
If you waste any of your perceptual time and energy on the truth, you are wasting your time and energy. It's not going to help you to stay alive, and you will not be able to outcompete organisms that spend none of their perceptual time and energy on the truth and only spend it on looking for the payoff points that help you win the game. So it's just like in a video game. If some guy is playing a video game and he's just sort of looking around, enjoying everything and trying to figure out how it works and so forth, looking at the pixels and so forth, he's going to lose to some other woman who is, focused on the fitness, on the points,
on the game
points, and trying to get them and getting to the next level. So if you're dawdling around with anything but the payoffs, you lose.
Rule number 2, control reality.
Most of my colleagues in cognitive neuroscience believe that our senses were shaped by natural selection, that we evolved, and that the selection pressures are such that those creatures that saw the world more accurately had a competitive advantage over those who saw less accurately. And so they were more likely to pass on their genes that coded for the accurate perceptions. And so the result is, after thousands of generations, we're the offspring of those who saw the world more accurately. And so we can be pretty confident that when I see tables and chairs and the sun and the moon and so forth, that I'm seeing reality as it is. No one believes we see all of reality, of course. We only see the parts that we need to see. But that the parts that we do see, we're seeing truthfully. And so I've looked at that from the point of view of the mathematics of evolution, the evolutionary game theory. And we can actually run simulations to see what happens, and we can prove theorems. And we've done both. And the bottom line is that the probability, if our senses evolved and were shaped by natural selection, the probability that we see reality as it is 0. And that means not simply that I don't quite see the shape of a chair correctly, or I don't quite see the colors correctly. It's much deeper than that. The problem is that the very language of space and time and physical objects is the wrong language to describe objective reality. You could not frame a true description of the world in that language. It's not possible. So it's not that we get it off a little bit here or there, it's that this whole thing is just the wrong framework for describing reality. So that seems so counterintuitive and so out there that I think a metaphor is needed to help understand how it might be working. And the metaphor I like is the user interface on, the desktop interface on your computer. If you're writing an email, and the icon for that email is blue and rectangular and in the middle of your screen, does that mean that the email itself, the file in your computer, is blue, rectangular, and in the middle of the computer? Well, of course not. Anybody who thought that misunderstands the point of the desktop interface. It's not there to show you the truth in this metaphor. The truth would be the circuits and the voltages and magnetic fields, all that complexity. Most of us don't want to know about that. That's really nasty. If you had to toggle voltages to craft an email, your friends wouldn't hear from you. It's just too hard. So what evolution has done for us is it's evolved us sensory systems: touch, smell, sight, sound, hearing, all these sensory interfaces as a user interface, that the purpose is to hide reality, completely to hide reality, just like your desktop interface on your computer is there to hide the circuits. You don't want to know about the circuits, and yet it allows you to control the circuits, right? by using icons and dragging them and clicking and so forth. You can control the reality without knowing anything at all about it. And that's what evolution did. Three-dimensional space is your desktop. It's a three-dimensional desktop, not just a two-dimensional desktop. And the icons are three-dimensional, not just flat. They're what we call physical objects. So tables and chairs and spoons and forks, these are icons that evolution has shaped to tell us about fitness payoffs and how to get them. So it's all about fitness. Even space itself is about fitness. The distance between me and an apple 10 meters away versus 10 miles away is telling me that it will cost me fewer calories to get the apple 10 meters away. It'll cost me a lot of calories to get the apple 10 miles away. Probably I should go for the apple that's 10 meters away. So even space itself is representing fitness payoffs and fitness costs. And so evolution, in short, has shaped us with a user interface that hides reality on purpose, where, purpose is in quotes. Evolution is just a process, but the effect of the process is really to hide reality so that you're not distracted by it, and you can control reality without actually knowing what it is.
Rule number 3, tune to fitness payoffs.
As I explored evolution by natural selection, I realized there was a deeper reason that I'd never understood before. And the reason is this, that fitness payoffs, which are like, evolution is like a video game. In a video game, you have to go running around in the screen as quickly as you can, grabbing points to try to get enough points to get to the next level. If you do, you get to the next level. If you don't, you die. In evolution, you're grabbing what they call fitness payoffs, but they're like the game points. And, grabbing fitness payoffs that, to food, the right mates, and so forth. But if you get enough, you don't yourself go to the next level. It's your genes that go to the next level in your offspring. And what I realized as I started studying this with my graduate students, Justin Mark and Brian Marion, we discovered that what's really going on is that the fitness payoffs themselves, which is what we're going to be tracking, that's what our senses are going to be telling us about. It turns out that the fitness payoffs themselves, in general, do not carry information about objective reality. They just tell you, you're about to die, you're about to get something that you're good, you're bad, don't eat this, eat that.
Have sex with this, don't have sex with that. Right.
That's all they're telling you. They're not telling you about the truth. And I can say that more mathematically, they're not homomorphisms of reality. I mean, so for mathematicians, generically, fitness payoff functions are not homomorphisms of structures in objective reality. But intuitively, it's just that fitness payoffs aren't about the truth. They're about what you need to do to stay alive. And that secured it for me. That was a surprise to me that I learned in around 2008, 2009, that evolution was even further against seeing the truth than I'd ever imagined. And so I published a paper in 2010 in the Journal of Theoretical Biology with my 2 graduate students, where we announced the results of the simulations. We did hundreds of thousands of simulations, and we found that organisms that saw the truth in the simulations went extinct when they competed against organisms that saw none of the truth and were just tuned to fitness. This is equal complexity organisms. And so I proposed then that it was a theorem, that organisms that see reality as it is are never more fit than organisms of equal complexity that see none of reality and are just tuned to fitness payoffs. And I went to a mathematician, Chetan Prakash, a longtime friend, who was actually there in 1986 when we were working on that mathematics. And I proposed this theorem to him. And he's a genius mathematician, and he was able to prove it. So we actually have a theorem, and then we've done further mathematics where we actually show, in general, fitness payoffs destroy information about the structure of the world. And so it's a theorem. Organisms that see reality as it is cannot outcompete organisms of equal complexity that see none of reality and are just tuned to fitness payoffs.
Rule number 4, understand how consciousness works.
When I propose, and my collaborators propose, that consciousness is fundamental, conscious agents are fundamental, and there's nothing else. That's the fundamental nature of reality, is consciousness and conscious agents. It turns out that when you study consciousness, and one of the things that I've done for decades is studied something called psychophysics. It's a branch of science where we study conscious experiences with careful experiments, and we write down mathematical models. Precise mathematical models about how you see in 3 dimensions, for example, how you see colors. And what we've discovered is that your conscious experiences of colors, shapes, motions, sounds, and so forth are not amorphous, jello kinds of things. They're highly structured, and we can predict with mathematical precision what you will see, the precise conscious experiences that you will have in various situations. It's truly stunning. So we can write down mathematical models that will predict exactly when you will go from seeing something like moving dots, moving in only 2 dimensions, to when all of a sudden they pop out and you have a new 3-dimensional experience in consciousness. We can write down equations that precisely capture when you're going to go from a 2-dimensional conscious experience to a 3-dimensional conscious experience. So what we've learned is that consciousness is not amorphous, it's structured. It has precise mathematical structure. So, what is the relationship between mathematics and consciousness? I don't think that they're separate things. I think to be conscious, to be a conscious experience or a conscious agent, is to be structured. And so mathematics is not divorced from consciousness. It's you might think of it as the bones of consciousness. It's the structure underlying consciousness. So mathematics is not an alien thing. It's an integral part of consciousness. Now, a big question about consciousness is, what is it about? Right? I'm getting rid of the Big Bang as the fundamental story and so forth. I'm saying consciousness is the fundamental thing.
Also, if you want to have more confidence, self-love, self-belief, check out my 254 series. The science says it can take up to 254 days of consecutive action to build a habit. So I've designed a special free program to help you get it, where I will send you an unlisted video to your email for the next 254 days to shift your self-belief forward. The link to sign up for free is in the description below.
You were up and dressed and ready to go before your parents were up. You know why? Because you knew something unexpected was going to happen. That's how we should live our lives. Waking up with the understanding to expect the unexpected.
Successful people do what they hate to get to where they want to be.
If you're going to speak effectively, you have to know way more than you're talking about.
Rule number 5, change your perspective.
With the universe as a whole now, we've discovered that it's not only expanding, but the rate of expansion of the universe is accelerating. And that imposes a fundamental finiteness on our universe. We're seeing all that we could ever see now. And things are going off our cosmic horizon. And there are objects that are disappearing in the sense that we, I'll put it this way.
We'll never catch up with them because the speed of light has its limitation, and those things are starting to, they're expanding too fast. Yeah.
Yeah, they actually, because space is expanding, galaxies that are very, very far away from us are literally moving away from us faster than the speed of light. We might see their light today, but so we can see them. In fact, 97% of the galaxies that we can see, we can never get to, even if we could go at the speed of light.
Right.
So
because of the rate of expansion. Yeah.
It's this big expansion, and that means that there's a fundamental finiteness to our universe, which means that in principle, quantum mechanics is telling us that we can't measure there are no what they call local observables in space-time. There's nothing inside space-time that you can measure precisely, which means that space-time itself is just an approximate concept, and that's the mind-blowing thing for physicists, right? And they're very explicit. Nima is very explicit about it. He says, physics has been about what happens in space and time. So if space-time is not fundamental, it's not really clear what physics is about.
Rule number 6, create data structure.
If I'm in a virtual reality game like Grand Theft Auto and I've got a steering wheel, I can say, look, I can intervene. I can turn the steering wheel to the left. That will make the car turn to the left. Therefore, the steering wheel is real, and it really does have an effect on a real car. No, it's not. There's, again, a hidden reality of diodes and resistors, all the circuits, that's mediating this. We only have the fiction of intervening and a fiction of causality. So the problem we have in the hard problem of consciousness is this. Scientists have gotten dozens, maybe hundreds of these tight correlations. We do not have a theory. We cannot explain why neural activity is correlated with conscious experiences. And in particular, we can't offer a single conscious experience, like say, by conscious experience, I mean something really simple, like having a headache, experiencing color, the taste of vanilla. The theories that are proposed are basically only believed by the graduate students of the professor who proposes them. And no theory that's been proposed can even predict or specify the conditions for a single experience, like the taste of vanilla. So if you think that neural activity causes the taste of vanilla, precisely what neural activity is causing the taste of vanilla and how does it do it, no one has any idea. Or if they say that neural activity is identical to the taste of vanilla, then as a scientist I want to say, okay, tell me with mathematical precision what exactly is the neural activity that's identical to vanilla and why is it identical? I mean, anybody can say anything. I can say the moon is identical to blue cheese and just stipulate it. Presumably, you need to give me some reason why I should believe in the identity. So they can't specify the identity and much less say why the identity should be plausible. So that's the problem that we've got. It's a really deep, open scientific problem. And it's very personal. We all have conscious experiences. We would like to understand and we also have brains. We'd like to understand what's happening here. Why are these correlations there? And so this theory of evolution that I mentioned that says we don't see reality as it is has a really strange consequence. It means that when I see a physical object like an apple, effectively I'm creating that apple as a data structure in my interface, much like if I'm in a virtual reality and I have a headset on, and every time I turn over here, I will see something. I'm rendering that in real time. I see an apple. As I go over here, I'm no longer rendering. The apple's gone. But as soon as I turn over there again, I will again create a three-dimensional apple. So I'm saying this doesn't just happen in virtual reality. It happens in everyday life. I look over here. I see an apple. I'm literally creating that data structure because now I'm effectively, an apple is a description of fitness payoffs and how to get them. It's all about fitness. That's the key thing. Evolution is all about fitness. But that means that the objects don't exist as pre-existing things. When I see an apple, we like to think, well, that's because there really is an apple. And I'm saying, no, there's some other reality out there. But just like the blue icon on your desktop doesn't resemble the true file, the apple does not resemble anything in objective reality. It's an abstract data structure that's just telling you how to act to get fitness payoffs.
Rule number 7, explore.
Gödel's theorem is telling us that no matter how many assumptions, how much structure you start with in a consciousness, there will always be more to explore. What Gödel is telling us is exploration of structure is endless, absolutely endless. And that's a stunning thing. There is no way, it's just impossible for any system to see all the structure that there is. So here's one idea, is that consciousness is, the dynamics is, hey, it's like a kid in a candy store. There's so much to explore, it's never ending, and so consciousness is just exploring all the different possible structures are the bones of new kinds of conscious experiences. All the structure that there is to explore is not just desiccated mathematics, it's living consciousness that's out there to explore. So I'm completely reinterpreting Gödel in a way that, of course, my physicalist colleagues would not. By saying that mathematics is the structure of consciousness, there's endless new structures out there. That means that consciousness has an endless suite of opportunities to explore, and that's what it's about.
Rule number 8, use visualization tools.
When you look inside your brain, inside your skull, and you see a brain, that's also just a data structure that you're creating. Neurons are just data structures. They don't exist, and this is the weird stuff. I don't have a brain when no one looks, and some of my colleagues would say, yeah, I agree with that. You don't have a brain. But the point of this is that we create any physical object that we see in the moment that we see it. And so neurons don't exist when they're not perceived. Therefore, neurons could not be the source of our conscious experiences. In fact, space-time itself is just your data structure. So the idea that space-time exists and has existed for 14 billion years as a pre-existing stage in which the drama of life plays out is also deeply wrong. Space-time itself is just a data structure that we create. So what is reality? It's a long answer to your question, but the answer is I don't know, but I'm trying to come up with a reality that would allow me to solve this hard problem of consciousness. So if the brain is just a symbol that we create when we look, and I'm trying to understand how consciousness is related to it, if I start with a theory in which consciousness is fundamental, and I have to do it scientifically, say, what do I mean precisely by consciousness with mathematical precision? And I have this theory that I call conscious agents, in which conscious agents interact. It's like the proposal is that reality is a vast social network. It's like a Twitterverse or Facebook. It's a big social network of conscious agents. That's the reality. They're not in space and time. They're just consciousnesses interacting with each other. As they interact, they are passing experiences back and forth. And it's an infinite Twitterverse, an infinite set of consciousnesses out there in this big social universe, social network universe. And any single conscious agent in that network would be overwhelmed trying to understand all of it. Like if you were trying to understand Twitter, there's tens of millions, hundreds of millions of users, billions of tweets. How are you going to try to understand what's going on in the Twitterverse? Well, you can't. But what you can do is you can use visualization tools. Suppose I have a visualization tool that compresses it all down, shows you what's trending in this city and what's trending over there. So you compress it all down and maybe into something that you can see through a headset so that you can actually, well, here's the Twitterverse in London, here's the Twitterverse in Edinburgh, and so forth, and here's what's going on, here's what's trending. Then you could sort of visualize it. That's what evolution did for us. The reality is this big, vast social network of interacting conscious agents. Each individual agent would be overwhelmed because it's infinite social network. And so what we call the physical world just is our visualization tool. That's what we have. So we've mistaken, so this is all a big visualization tool. Space-time and physical objects are the way we visualize our interaction with this vast universe of social network universe.
Rule number 9, redefine your thinking.
Space and time themselves do not exist independent of us. So most of us think that space-time is fundamental reality, and all the objects inside space-time are on the stage, this pre-existing stage of space-time. And I'm saying that that whole idea is wrong, that space-time is something that you create in this moment. You're the author of space-time. You're not a bit player that's shown up 14 billion years later after this stage was set. So we are the authors of space and time and all the objects that we see. We're not bit players in space-time.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is study mathematics.
The notion of a conscious agent is absolutely mathematically precise. And we're working with Shanna to take it to a new level of sophistication. But right now it's precise. And the mathematics says that whenever two conscious agents interact, they combine to form a new conscious agent. It's the mathematics. I didn't expect, I wrote down the mathematical model myself based on intuitions about consciousness, wrote down the mathematics, and it was only when I looked at them, a few weeks later, looked at the mathematics that I realized that it was saying to me that when agents interact, they create new agents. Now, they can interact in a way where the new agent is not much different from the original, what people call a Cartesian product. But they can also start to interact more so that the new agent really has new properties that aren't reducible to the two lower agents. And this can go recursively infinitely many times. So that means that there's an infinite network. That's why I talked about an infinite network of conscious agents. Agents are interacting, and whenever they interact, they create a new agent. So in some sense, there's an infinite network of conscious agents, but they're also all one agent. So there is one big agent.
Now I've got a special bonus clip that I think you're gonna enjoy, but before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video, and what is your plan of action for the next week? The science says that when you just watch a video, you get motivated, you get inspired, you have a 35% chance of actually doing something and following through. That, Believe Nation, is not enough. 35% is not enough. We gotta do something. But when you get inspired by watching a video like this, and then you create a plan of action, your chances of following through jump to 91%. And when you commit publicly, like putting your comment down below with your plan, it jumps to 95%. That's what I want for you. I want you to take action. Your dreams are too important. Your life matters. Your mission has to happen. So, question of the day, your biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week, put it down in the comments below, and I'm gonna celebrate alongside with you.
I'm saying that there are other consciousnesses out there. I'm talking with you. I believe that you're not just a figment of my imagination.
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me.
That's right. And I'm not a figment of your imagination. And that puts certain responsibilities on me. Even though what I perceive is just an icon of Zubin, I need to be very, very careful how I treat that icon, because in interacting with that icon, I could literally cause pain to the consciousness of Zubin, and you could cause pain to me. So our interface gives us a genuine portal to other consciousnesses, all human consciousnesses. My cats are my icons, but I believe that my cat icons are portals to real conscious creatures that, again, I don't want to hurt. And a mouse, ants, and so forth, it goes all. The interface, I claim, is all to other consciousnesses, but the interface is like a visualization tool. And of course, a visualization tool is there to sort of hide the complexity and dumb things down and so forth, because we'd be overwhelmed by all the consciousnesses out there. And so that's what space-time is. It's a visualization tool.
If you want 10 awesome rules from Jordan Peterson, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
So, you know, Silicon Valley tends to be liberal. Everyone knows that. And the reason for that is that there's a tremendous number of entrepreneurs there. And entrepreneurs tend to be high in openness and lower in conscientiousness. So they're creative,